OP13 is nearly here, and with it is coming an increased amount of secret rares, an increased amount of mangas, and an increased amount of exciting cards. In this video, I'll be covering the new cards that were revealed at the big One Piece Day reveal just last night. I won't be covering the emu cards. If you want to check out my opinion on the emu cards, click on this card on your screen right now. I put up a separate video on those earlier today. And first up, we've got this 6/7 secret Port Gasti ace. Whitebeard Pirates, if you have 3 or less life, this character gains rush. On play, give 1 rested onto your leader, which is lovely because your Port Gasti ace leader would love to have a rested Don on him. And then you can choose to bounce one of your opponent's 5-cost characters or less. And then if you do, they get to play a 4 or less from their hand, which is actually going to create some interesting scenarios where there's going to be some situations where your opponent has characters on their board, but you don't want to bounce them. For example, if your opponent, if their only character was this 4-cost Monkey D. Luffy, you wouldn't want to bounce this, because they get to play it again, and then play another guy off of it. So this being like situational removal, I think is actually really interesting card design. We've not seen many effects in the game that let your opponent play guys in your turn. Obviously, there's things like the 1-cost event that the Chopper deck plays, and there's the 4-cost Zoro from Starter Deck 21, but none that were really instigated by you, and this ace is quite interesting. Obviously, into other decks, bouncing things like Cavendish, 5-cost Smoker, it's kind of powerful, but it is worth noting what your opponent could play out for 4, and maybe that would be more scary. And at the very least, they can just play a blocker if they're in danger and they really need to get out of your swing. Maybe you bounce a blocker and they just play it again. So it's kind of interesting. And I think this card is competing with, obviously, the Yamato from EVO2. I think it competes favourably, mostly because it's searchable. But this Yamato giving you a rested Don to your leader every single turn is obviously more value in that regard. So I think whether you play this ace or the Yamato is going to be a little bit dependent on how relevant bouncing particularly 5 costs is. Because obviously bouncing a 4 doesn't do anything. Your opponent will just get the on-play again. So it's specifically 5 costs that you need to bounce. It's also obviously competing for the same slot with the Monkey D. Luffy from Starter Deck 21. I think this card is likely just not going to see play in the deck anymore. Now that we have the Yamato revealed, as well as the ace, I think this guy's probably lost his slot. But if you're specifically on odds, he could still be valuable. However, we do have a new 5-cost that I think, again, will replace the Monkey D. Luffy. This is Yamato, 5/6, Wano, 1k. On play, if your life is 3 or less, which if you're playing ace, it always is, you get to draw 2, then give 1 rested Don to your leader. And earlier this week, I believe it's this week anyway, we had this Ezo revealed that I saw a lot of discussion over whether this was worth playing or not. Well, this is no longer worth playing. We're never playing this Ezo. This Yamato, certainly in this deck at least, the Yamato is strictly better. Maybe in a mono blue deck, you'd want to play the Ezo because your life might be too high for the Yamato. But in both Ace and I think also in blue-yellow Nami, this Yamato is going to be really powerful. Going +1 in hand and giving you a Don, that's pretty crazy. It's like a 4/6 that draws 2. What's not to love? And then, like I say, in Nami, this Wano Nami build is really coming together. There's been a few people that have done videos on Wano Nami recently. Kyler Kai did one that was really nice. If you want to see some gameplay of Wano Nami, check out his video. But this extra Yamato is just going to be another piece to sort of buff out your curve, because you've obviously got the Yamato that you can drop early on. You've got Kikunojo, who you can do on 4. But now having this Yamato to do on either 5 or 6 and then lead into dropping the Oden, it kind of just gives you a full blue-yellow Wano curve. And Nami obviously loves having cards in her hand, and this drawing on top of your leader effect drawing, you're going to be drawing a serious amount of cards with Wano Nami if you choose to play this Yamato in it, which I think is a very nice buff. Also, of course, worth noting that the Don on your leader is incredibly relevant. Moving on, we've got this new Monkey D. Luffy, and I'm actually really excited about this one. I'm not normally excited about Luffy cards. Kind of sick of it a little bit. This is a 6/7 brick with the Fishman Island, Supernovas, and Straw Hat Crew types. So 3 really good types, and I think this will lend itself to being playable in a lot of different decks. He has double attack, which is pretty cool, and then on play, if your leader is multicolored, you get to set 4 of your Don as active. Then you may not play characters with a cost of 5 or less for the rest of the turn. So yes, this is a 6/7 that restands 4. The green with the Don restand lately, man, it's been going crazy. We've had like that 5-cost Sanji, we've had the 4-cost Zoro, we've had the 8-cost Mihawk, of course, he's a favourite. And now we've got this. And if you're on 10 Don, well, you can do Mihawk into this and still have 4 Don active, which is kind of bonkers. Obviously, this card is intended for the Red Green Luffy. Restanding 4 Don is just like 8k counter, which is very, very good. But I think this also has applications in a bunch of other both meta and off-meta decks. In Smoker, of course, this is a 7k power unit for your Smoker's effect, and this is effectively free. It's a 6/7 that restands 4, and then your leader restands the other 2. It's pretty good. Obviously, we can't currently search this in the current builds of Smoker, but there are a lot of Supernova and Straw Hat crew searchers that you very well could play in Smoker. So maybe a Straw Hat build of Smoker is possible. That would be quite exciting. Zonji. This is a double attack unit that Zonji can restand. That's quite scary. Also, because it is Supernovas, you can search this off, for example, the 2-cost Kid and Killer, and then you could bounce that Kid and Killer with your leader's effect. So I think this is actually a really nice use case for this in the Zonji deck. And because you get the 4 Dom back as well, you can even combo this with like a bunch of stuff you've already got. So say you've got the Mihawk into like a Weevil on your 4 Don turn. Well, you can play out the Luffy, put 1 Don on your leader, attack with the Weevil, pick up the Mihawk, restand your Weevil, attack with your Weevil again, get a couple of attacks in, maybe even play something else after that. Play down one of those 2 costs so that you can bounce something with your leader effect next turn. Could be pretty exciting. Also, in Shirahoshi, this is randomly Fishman Island. I don't really understand why. I'm sure it's a lore reason from this pose that they've chosen. But you can search this off of the 1-cost Shirahoshi, which is quite nice. And Shirahoshi is, of course, multicolored. So you could do this into your leader effect. It's a little bit awkward that it says that you can't play original 5-cost or greater for the rest of the turn. Shirahoshi does love playing out like the 5-cost blocker guy and also the 6-cost vanilla. So you won't be able to do that, but you could at least play like a 4-cost, maybe the Searcher guy, the Spotted Neptunian. And then use the rest of the Don for a blocker like Charlie to go really wide on your 6 Don turn as sort of an alternative to just playing the vanilla and a 5-cost. Will it make the cut in Shirahoshi? Who knows, but I'm really excited to give it a go. And here's some other more tenuous options. In Arlong, it does restand a bunch of Dons. He's multicolored and double attacks, obviously very nice for an aggressive deck like Arlong, letting you play out a 6/7 and still use your leader effect. It's pretty cool. In Yamato, you can play out this 6/7 and stacking double attack makes it a little bit more threatening because your opponent, often when you have like a guy, maybe they have like a Kikunojo on the board, your opponent is heavily incentivized to take the damage from your Kikunojo because then it can interfere with the efficacy of your double attack. But if all your guys have double attack, well, what are they taking? It suddenly gets a little bit troublesome. And of course, at the very baseline, you can play this guy for 6, restand 4, slam the 4 on Yamato and go 9 double attack, whilst developing a 6/7 with double attack. That seems pretty enticing to me. And in Lim, a bit more tenuous because obviously your Lim effect wants to play out 5 costs. But if you do play this, it will of course come in tap. You'll get to restand 4, and you can still use your Lim effect, although not to play a 5 cost. So maybe not in Lim, but just wanted to highlight that you can use those Dons for your Lim effect, which is kind of cool. The other green card we've had revealed today is the Uta. There's a 4/5 film 1k. On play, restand 2 Don. Then you cannot play characters with an original cost of 5 or more for the rest of the turn. And then on KO, you can play a 5 cost or less from your hand as rested. So this reminds me quite a bit of the Zoro from Stardeck 21, in that your opponent is not going to want to take out this Uta, because you can summon some pretty nasty stuff with this, and we'll cover those on the next slide. But at a baseline, this I think competes quite favourably with the 4-cost Zoro, because also the 4-cost Zoro will stand himself up, so your opponent can't interact with him. The fact that he's just on KO, so if they KO it by an effect, something like a God Thread, you still get to summon that 5-cost, I think makes her slightly better than the Zoro. Although if you are playing things like Straw Hat Searchers, or Supernova Searchers, maybe you would prioritise the Zoro because the Uta is only film. And of course, you can play both of these off 7-cost Luffy, turning this into a 5 Don play, which is great. Whilst this is obviously intended for Red Green Luffy, this is not locked at all. You can very happily play this in Green Uta, of course. It is a film card, so it's not going to increase the amount of non-film cards in your deck. And it's another target for your 7-cost Luffy. And at the very baseline, restanding those 2 Don lets you swing 7 with your leader, which can be pretty nice into leaders that increase their power. So what are we going to summon? I think the best one at a baseline is probably the Sanji. This was revealed a few days ago. Restands 2 Don. So in Red Green Luffy, if your opponent takes out your Uta, you get to play this and then have 4k more counter. Which is kind of wild, you know? And then at the end of your turn, he's going to get you value turn over turn. And of course, you can summon Old Mate Cavendish. He again restands Don, although this coming in tapped is a very like happy target for your opponent to attack into. That is the one problem I've had with the red-green Luffy, is this Cavendish. He gets targeted to hell because you cannot use your Dons to protect him. So, but I think both of these are pretty good, and if you were to play this in a multicolored deck, I'm not sure which you would, maybe Smoker. You can actually summon like the 5-cost Smoker, which would be kind of cool. Or even a 5-cost of another color, if you can really get to cooking. I think the possibilities with this card are very high, but even at a baseline just in the red-green Luffy, this seems like a very strong option. Next up, we got a new Roger Divine Departure event. This is purple, 0 cost Roger Pirates, and it has 2 effects. Firstly, we'll cover the counter effect. You trash one card and get 3 cape counter. This is a new 0 cost. Purple now has 2 of them. You can run 6 if you like. I don't think you would, but this does give you another option to the Gum Gum Jet Gatling, certainly for Roger Pirates, because it's searchable. And the other effect is main, you can rest 5s. There's a 5 Don event. If you have any given Don, you can give one of your opponent's characters minus 8k power. 8k is a ridiculous amount. Obviously, this costs 5. So it's a lot more expensive than a card like Gamma Knife, that's 2 for 5k. But having the option to combine this power down with your 0 cost event might make it desirable. Obviously, in something like a purple Luffy deck, both of these cards are searchable, whereas the Divine Departure is not. But having the option to put those 2 cards into one, increasing the space in your deck, maybe you could just run 2 of these instead of 1 Jet Gatling, 1 Gamma Knife. It'll be interesting to see if anything other than Roger chooses to play this, and I think Roger is likely to play at least one of these. Having that power down is going to be nice for dealing with Kid or other large characters, and Roger does play a fair amount of bricks, so having a searchable 0 cost is pretty cool. Next up, moving into yellow, we've got this new Stussy. She's a 7/7 Egghead CP0 blocker, and on play, if your leader is Egghead, you can play a 5 cost with a trigger from your hand. So obviously this is usable in both Bonnie and Vegapunk. I think in Vegapunk, you're going to be pretty hard done by to find a better target to summon than the 5 cost Vegapunk. So you get this 7/7 blocker, that summons a 5/0 blocker, and he summons something from the top of the deck. I mean, the board spam is pretty nuts for just 7 Don, right? And I really am excited that Vegapunk is finally getting sort of top end, because that was one of the problems, right? You had all these 5 cost guys, but once you got to the higher Don counts, you weren't really doing anything with your Don. You were just like using it to swing, which is fine, but sometimes it's nice to have these bigger characters. And Stussy giving you actual defense, 7k blocker stat line is pretty decent, whilst summoning more dudes, seems really nice for Vegapunk. In Bonnie, we don't really have a great card from the set that we're going to summon. You can obviously summon some of the old Egghead cards, but you can also summon this Bo Hancock, because you don't have to only summon Egghead cards, you can summon anything with a trigger. And playing a 7/7 blocker that summons this 5/7 that freezes one of your opponent's guys, yes, you're going to go quite neg in hand, because this is -3, this combo, but this is getting you out of 1 attack, probably getting you out of 2 attacks. So if that can buy you like a whole turn of no damage, that's pretty enticing. That's it for the new cards. We do also have the base arts of the Gorosei from the Emu deck, and honestly, I kind of like these. The alt arts are obviously way better. They're insane. But I think even like these old man rare forms look pretty cool. We do also have not only these alt arts of the 3 secret rares, and yet 3, right? Every single set has had 2. 3 secret rares is crazy. more than ever before, man. They're going all out for this set. I'm really hyped. We also have the regular mangas, all 3 of them getting a manga. Yes, that's right, another manga Luffy. Leave your complaints in the comments below about the 1 gorillionth manga Luffy, but here we are. And we're also getting these new fire mangas, is what they're calling them. That's what I've heard anyway. And these look really nice. I do think I prefer them to the regular mangas, and I imagine they're going to be a lot rarer. Will they be on the same rarity as the Gold Roger manga? We'll just have to see. But more rarity is... I've still never pulled a regular manga, so I know I'm never going to pull one of these bad boys. But if you are a high rarity enjoyer, get your wallet ready. And we also have all of the alt arts from the set. We'll go through these quickly. We've got the Ace Sabo Luffy and the Garp in red. The Uta and the Shanks in green. The Yamato and the Big 1012 Nugate in blue. This Roger, man, I've got to pause here. I love this Roger. This Roger goes so unfathomably hard. Like, look at this. Of course it's a Gawa. I think he's got to be my favourite artist at the minute, man. Every card that he does just looks insane. And yeah, I'll definitely be picking up at least one of these. Will we be playing Roger? Maybe, but this ult is, man, that's so fire. Also have, of course, the Rayleigh, and a nice little ult of the Baby Shanks Searcher. And in yellow, yellow's got 4. We've got the Lilith, that's the Searcher. Got that Stussy that we talked about earlier. The 9-cost Bonnie, and finally we got a 9-cost Bonnie art that is not sus. If I am playing the Bonnie deck, I will have to be picking up these, because that regular art is too sus for me. And we do have the S-Snake. I was a little underwhelmed by this card, but Power Down in yellow is a unique effect. So maybe this will make the cut. And this is also another card that you can play off that Stussy. And not only that, we've got mangas, we've got fire mangas, we've got alts, we've got SPs too. Ben Beckman, 5-cost Smoker, and the 5-cost Ace. This is the one from the EB that looks at the top 5 and grabs 2-cost and then plays a 2-cost. So if you're planning on playing Blue Yellow Ace, that'll be nice. I will be picking up a Smoker for my Navy collection. More Navy SPs. My money is slowly draining away, but here we are. And the Ben Beckman is pretty nice if you're a Shanks enjoyer still. And the other 3, you got the Luffy. This is the 9-cost Secret Luffy, the Rush one. Got the Sabo. This is the Secret Sabo, the one that pops a 5 and a 3. I don't think this is that great, honestly. I don't imagine this will see a ton of play. But the Secret Lilith is quite interesting. Was not expecting that one. And we also have more SPs. We've got wanted posters too. They're just piling everything in this set. These anniversary sets are getting crazier every single time. We've got the wanted posters of all 3 secret rares. We've got the Luffy, the Ace, and the Sabo. And also a wanted poster of the old Roger. This is not the purple Roger. This is the red Roger from set 9. The one with Rush and that turns off your opponent's blockers. So that's pretty cool. I do like this one especially. I think we've already had some wanted Luffys. Wanted Ace and wanted Sabo. They're both new, right? And the Roger's probably my favourite of the bunch. And indeed, we also have these anniversary cards. The gold and red version of Shanks. No silver one this time, but gold and red goes pretty hard too. So that's it for this video. We've finally rounded up every single card that was revealed at the Bandai Card Fest. So many reveals, such little time. What's your favourite alt? Let me know in the comments below. Did I miss anything on any of these new cards as well? Personally, I'm really excited for the 6-cost Luffy. You know me, I love my Shirahoshi. And I just want to try this in there because that seems really exciting. But Red Blue Ace as well is starting to look like a bit of a menace, so we'll see. Thank you for watching and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.